Hello and welcome to another episode of Kuma's Kitchen. Now, what I've got in front of me, first of all, it's all started because I had leftover walnuts from another recipe I was making, and I had a bunch of walnuts, and I'm like, what should I make with the walnuts? Now, I was considering, and I will make for this channel one day, it's called Bündner Nusstort. Now, that's those of you who don't know, I'm originally from a small town in the Bündner Valley, the Bündnerland, the Prachtgau Valley of the Bündnerland, Graubünden. It's a canton in Switzerland. Sorry, one of the biggest cantons, I think. We have like 400 peaks in that canton. It's a very mountainous area. But there's a valley next to us, a more wider valley called the Engadine, and they developed something called the Nusstort, or the nut tort. Nut tart, I guess you call it, like a nut pie. And what it was is they were getting lots of walnuts when their workers were coming back. We always had mercenaries that go out to other countries. Back in the day, they'd go off and they'd be like down in Italy and stuff, and their pay would be coming back with a whole bunch bags of walnuts and stuff like this. And they created this Nusstort to preserve the walnuts. Well, it is a fantastic recipe, and I promise I will bring it out here on Kuma's Kitchen one day. It's just that right now, I'm thinking, well, I've only got today off. I'm pretty busy doing tours and stuff. So let's do something a little quicker than that. And what I came up with is these little cookies. They are honey walnut cookies. They're a little crispiness to them. Like that. Got the walnuts in there. They're chopped up. I'm doing it in the food processor. Most of it's done in a food processor. Got the honey in there, the honey flavor. Just a little dusting of icing sugar on top. Just looks nice and gives it a little zap of flavor. Oh, these are fantastic. You're gonna want to make some of these. Really easy to make. Like I say, most of it's done in the food processor. A little bit of hands-on. And that's it, in the oven. All right, let's go in the kitchen and make these right now. To make these cookies, most of the work's going to be done right here in the food processor. So, what I've got for the ingredients is, across the front here, I've got a 1/4 cup of honey. That's a really dark honey, actually. It's really nice. I just picked this up the other day. I like dark honeys, they have more flavor, but any honey will do. But if you get a bit darker one, it's going to add more flavor to your cookies. I've got a 1/4 teaspoon here of salt. I've got 2 teaspoons of baking powder, just to give a little lift to the cookies. Over here, I've got 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and this is my usual, my favorite unrefined cane sugar. I've got 1 cup of butter, and I've chopped that into pieces, so it'll be easier when it hits here to get chopped up. It's semi-cold. It's been out of the fridge for a little bit, but it's not super chilled, but it's still cold, so it doesn't really matter that much. You don't want it too soft, right? So out of the fridge is best. Then across here, walnuts. That's one of the main ingredients here, right? The walnuts. So this is 2 cups of walnut pieces, and then 2 cups of flour. So over here, I've got icing sugar. Now, the measurement's not exact on this because all I need is a bit of icing sugar in there to roll the cookies in afterwards. So one important thing, though, is to sift it so you don't get any lumps. So I've sifted some icing sugar into there. Definitely not going to use all of that, but I wanted a bit more in there so it's easy to roll the cookie around in there. And then actually the rest of the icing sugar, I'll use it for something else afterwards. All right, so first thing you want to do is put the sugar and the walnuts into the food processor, and I'm going to pulse these until I get those walnuts down to little pieces. Kind of like maybe the point where I got rough grains of sand. Yeah. Here we go. All right, look at that. Yeah, perfect. There's a couple pieces in there. They're about, some pieces are close to 1/8 of an inch. Others are already down to a powder. That's good. That's just what we want to do right there. So now in goes the salt. That's just there to pop the flavor a bit. The butter. and the honey. But before I put the honey in, I'm just going to zap this up a bit. And then I want to drizzle a lot of honey throughout. Here we go. All right, that's starting to come together a bit. So what I want to do now is get some of that honey in there. So just to make this easy, I'm not going to put all the honey in at once. So quite a bit of it actually, but not all. Whoa, where's my... That's what I want. All right, stop that there for a sec. We'll put the rest in afterwards. That's a nice honey. All right, so we'll work that in there a bit. Just a couple pulses. Now we're getting to where we're loading the food processor to max. So that is about it. But hey, it's all chopped up nicely. So what we're going to do now, it's time to put it in the bowl and add a little bit of elbow grease. All right, perfect. So I'm going to have to get all that out of there. So just going to clean all this off, get everything in here. Back in a sec. All right, so that's it. Got everything out of there. Off the blade. You've got to try some of this before you mix everything else. It's just absolutely delicious. Walnuts, butter, honey. All right. What I do now is I'm just going to push that down a bit. Get it well in there so I can get the rest of that honey in there. All right, got all that honey in there. Oh, that's so good. Now I'll just take a wooden spoon and mix that all, get that honey, the rest of that honey spread throughout. That's a delicious honey too. Yeah, definitely if you can get a darker honey. Great flavor. All right, now we got that spread throughout. Next is we want to get the flour in there. So first thing I want to do is, of course, I want to distribute the baking powder throughout the flour before it goes into here. This guy here will do the job. So mix that around a bit. And then we'll start working that into here. So I'm going to put about half in. Mix that in. Going to use, as usual, just that cutting motion until you work the flour into the, I'm going to call it nut butter. It's a little tip here. If you're like me and you start getting hand cramps doing this, switch the position that you're holding, and it makes a big difference. Do that for a little while, and switch back to the other position. It definitely gets rid of those hand cramps. All right, so that is basically all mixed in. The rest is going to be done a little kneading by hand. Let's put that spoon aside to be licked afterwards. Okay. Out right now. All right, so now it's going to go down in here. The final is just to kind of give it a slight knead just to get the rest of any flour worked into there. It all comes together. When I get to this point, you can just toss that out onto the counter. Get that out of the way. Just kind of work that in. All right, a couple pieces in there. All right, that is looking good. What I want to do now is I want to roll this into pieces. So I'm going to break this up into 3 balls. Be just about right. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. And then I'm going to roll them into cylinders. Just kind of cylinders, logs, whatever you want to call them, until they're about an inch or about 25 millimeters thick. Roughly. It doesn't have to be exact. That's good enough, just like that. And what I do with each one of these is wrap it in a piece of saran wrap. And, all right, there we go. That just fits. Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna do that with the other two too. Gonna go in the refrigerator and be chilled for about half an hour, and we'll be back to make our cookies. We'll see you then. All right, so I've been chilling those for about half an hour. Looking good. Let's just get one of these off here. Put that off to one side for right now. And just unroll it out of the saran wrap. There we go. Now what I want to do is I want to cut this into like about 1/2 inch wide pieces. So like that, stick that on there. Like that. Just keep going until you got, and you don't need to leave much space between these. They're going to spread out a little bit, but not too much space is needed. Maybe like, you know, like that. About 4 in a row would be just right. All right, so that's one tray ready to go. Let's get the next one ready, and then we're gonna get them in the oven. All right, so that's about a little over half the dough, and we've got what? Sorry, some dough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 rows of 4. So that's 44 cookies right there. Probably gonna end up with about another 40 cookies. Pretty good. All right. Gonna put these in the oven right now at 375 degrees Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius for 15 to 16 minutes. I'm gonna just get them brown a little bit, just looking perfect. Get them back out here. See you shortly. All right, so these have been going for about 15 minutes. So you can see, this is what we're looking for. Get that browning around the edge, and see the little holes? That's the sign that your cookies are ready. You got the little holes coming up there. So what we're gonna do, I got the other batch coming out right now. Let's get that out here too. There we go, we got 2 trays. Now, I wanna cool them for about 5 minutes before I try to get them onto the cooling rack, so they're just gonna fall apart. I ended up with 37 more. Total, we're gonna have about 80 cookies. So what I wanna do here is I want to slide these carefully off here. See how soft they are still? I want to slide them off carefully like that. There we go. Let them cool on there. So I got these racks so I can make the next batch. All right, so I'm going to get the next batch into the oven, and I'll see you back here when this first batch is ready and we can put them into the icing sugar. I'll see you then. All right, these have been sitting here for actually not quite 5 minutes, about 4 minutes. But look at this, when you go to pick one up, where they were flexing before, they're already getting hard. Now, last time I made these, I was dipping them in the icing sugar. And I just now remembered that it was a little awkward. You could have to do that. And I thought, you know what, let's make an improvement. And that's the thing about cooking. You should always be improving. So guess what we're gonna do? This is gonna be an easier way. Just put a little bit of icing sugar in the old sifter, and look at that. Just quickly, we can do a whole bunch at once. Beautiful. All right, let's do that second batch up front there. Throw a little spoonful in here, and just drop most of it. All right, put some more in there, and again we go. You don't need much, just a little light dusting like this, you know? Some are gonna be more than others. That's okay, like this, everybody choose if they want a heavily dusted or lightly dusted one. There we go, okay. Beautiful. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is just move them to the cooling rack. So just put them on here, let them cool. That other batch is still in the oven right now, so you got some time to do this and let them cool, and then get the next batch out here on the counter like this. Perfect. All right, so see you shortly. All right, so we got a nice looking batch of cookies there. What we haven't done yet is taste test them. So let's grab one of those. That's perfect. It's a nice little crunch there. It's not quite like a butter cookie, but there's a lot of butter in there, so it gives it that kind of butter cookiness. You got the walnuts in there, giving it a little more texture, flavor. And every once in a while you get a little shot of that icing sugar on there. It's absolutely fantastic. All right, so if you like this recipe, hey, stick around, check out the other ones here on the channel. All original Kevin Riley recipes here on the Kuma's Kitchen channel. Make sure that you are subscribed, that you've clicked that notification bell so you never miss out on a recipe. I was just with a friend the other day, and when one of my recipes came live, he said, "Oh, ding! There we go. Your new recipe's out. Wow, I gotta check it out." And that's exactly what happens. Whoa, see, they're still a little soft. Starting to bend on me. That's exactly what happens is you get that notification, you get to check out a new recipe, you get to try out a new recipe, you get to just expand your cooking. So make sure you do that. Now go make these. And make cooking fun again with Kuma's Kitchen.